All right, this is it. I'm going to be streaming and recording my process of learning Unreal Engine and hopefully making a project that I've been interested in making for a long time. It's going to be a VR Dragon Ball game. I don't have a name for it yet. All I have are some notes of stuff I want to include and Unreal because it's free. I have a lot of free extensions that I've gotten for Unreal over time. And I've added a few that seemed useful to the project, like one that adds stats and lets you base aspects of your character on those stats. I'm pretty sure everything here that is a logical module like that can, well, I know it can all be coded. There's no specific things that can only be done in expansions like this. Later on in the project, things like these textures and things like the particle effects and plants and stuff, those will be more useful much, much later. Right now, I am starting with the basics. I have tutorials that I'll be reading. I have the engine just updated to the newest version, and this is the version that I will probably be working with for the foreseeable future, unless I have some reason to switch. Let's start. So I have used Unreal Editor before. That's why it's popping up here that my headset is not detected. Because last time I was using this, I was using a VR module. So Steam is recognizing this as a VR game. I am going to turn that off. And is that going to kill it? No, it is now working without VR. And I am making the game. So I said I had launched this before, and I had used the VR module here before, but I never did a single thing with it. I looked around and decided I would get to that some other time, and now is finally that time. I don't know if it would be better for me to start with virtual reality, since that's what I want to make, or if it would be better for me to start with blank, since I'm learning. I don't think there's anything that I shouldn't be able to figure out in VR. I can just make my own blank space off to the side and do stuff there if I need to. So I will do this. Choose a location. Yep, that's fine. Hey, I am just starting out here. So this may be a little uninteresting. But I'm here to chat. Let's see. I forget where I kept this. It was not on this. Oh, it was. Okay, Unreal Engine projects. Let's put it there. Gotta have something for a dev name. Project Coffee. While that's loading, let's try looking at some tutorials here. So we've got, this seems like a very basic tutorial, but I don't know some of this stuff. I'm not going to be using blueprints. Last time I started this, when I had started with that VR module, I tried using blueprints and I really don't like them. I think they're kind of advertised as the easier way to start coding, but they are they might be intuitive, but to me they're not easier. There's a lot of screen panning around to see exactly what you've linked together and stuff. Um, and it's much easier to me just to be able to control F search a page of code and type the things that I want to be done instead of having to find them in menus and stuff like that. So that's probably what I'm going to be doing for most of it. I might do some blueprints. I know you can mix them, but this it's talking about nodes and everything. I think this tutorial is focusing on blueprints, so might not use this tutorial much, but we can start going through. I've seen this before. Importing assets is not something that we'll be doing right away. I think that's more like when we're trying to make our own custom objects for later. So, okay, yeah, no, I'm not using this tutorial. Never mind. See ya. This is at 45%. Let's see what other tutorials I had saved. We've got motion controller component setup. I have done that before. It wasn't that hard, but we're also not starting with that. So let's try a different one first. We've got this documentation that is now a 404 because I saved it so long ago. This is just their documentation page, so it should still be fine other than that. Starting with the documentation obviously would be a good idea, but it's also going to be kind of dense. Like this, I'm not really up to date on Unreal Engine as it was, so I don't need to know the changes to as it is. Getting started, this is all the install stuff for Unity developers. Won't help me. Terminology. Feel like that might be useful. Templates, maybe. Interface, we saw that already. It might be helpful to go over. Tools and editors, this is where we get into the meat. Content browser, assets and packages, actors and geometry. Okay, this is the stuff that I need to read. Source control, not super important yet. Directory structure, also not. Okay, so we can start with this. Project is your game. Not going to use blueprints. Objects. In C++, UObject is the base class of all objects. Object-oriented programming, as thankfully what Unreal Engine uses, as what most things use. This is still at 45%. That's not a great sign, but let's leave it for now. Classes, yeah. Actors are things in the level. Okay, that is a good term to know. A actor is the base class of all actors. Good to know. Casting is an action that takes an actor of a specific class and tries to treat it as if it were a different class. So tries to treat it as if it were a different class. Okay. If one volume is fire, which decreases player health, you can cast that volume to fire to try to access its damage player health functionality. Okay, so you can make other volumes into fire by casting them so that they can lower player health. That's, I feel like there would maybe be a better explanation of what this is, but we'll just have to play with it. Okay, this is done. Cool. I don't need this, but if I remember correctly, it will keep blinking. Let's go ahead and go through it. 3D viewport. Yes. These are the tools to manipulate actors. Okay. This changes the renders. Yep. The modes panel contains a selection of modes for the editor. Where is that? Modes panel. Okay. So that is here. Gotcha. Okay. Content browser is for content. Okay. Details is for whatever we have selected. Yes. World outliner shows everything in the scene. Okay. Column selector drop-down menu. Ah, okay. Toolbar, yep. Menu bar. Okay. Yeah, makes sense. Rotate tool. Control and Alt shows what they do. Okay. I will probably forget that, but it does seem like a useful thing to do. And that's it. Okay. We do not need blueprints, but we could use basics maybe. 3D viewport navigation. No, we got that already. Content browser walkthrough. We got what the content browser is, and it's just a file system. Feature packs overview. Nah. Okay. So this is different than the last VR basic playground. Before it was like just a big open box like this but larger with some boxes around, but there were boxes that you could pick up and throw like these that weren't textured like this, and there weren't guns. And you could see the... Oh wait, I think I had to go through some menus to get to the one that I'm talking about before. It definitely didn't look like this, but I was about to say you could see and edit the player's VR headset and VR controllers from the start, but I definitely had to go through something in the file system to get to that, and it was like to load the default VR module. Anyway, back to where we were. We've got these to go through. Casting is important to know. Components are pieces of functionality on actors. Pawns are subclasses of actors. Pawns are what you control as a player. Okay. Or AI. Okay. So anything that is controlled is a pawn. The player character is the pawn that is controlled by the player. Every game has at least a player controller, which controls the player character. AI controller, okay. Player state. These are very important. States can include name, current level, health score. We either have to create all of these ourselves or use an extension like the one that I mentioned that adds statistics. Still going to take a lot of learning. The game mode sets the rules of the game that is being played. Okay. Brushes for 3D modeling, 3D level geometry, okay. Volumes, yes, okay. So this game is planned to be a VR Dragon Ball game because I was surprised. I still am surprised that nobody has made anything like that before, at least as far as I've seen. I could be unaware of something, but I want to shoot a Kamehameha in VR. That's not too much to ask, right? So I'll make it myself. And the way that I thought might be easiest to set that up, because when you're thinking about a Kamehameha, it's like this specific motion. You pull your hands behind you, and then you throw them forward. The only way to track that is going to be with the hand controllers, and I'm pretty sure the best way to do gesture tracking like that, where it makes you pull your hands back and then push them forward, is going to be by creating volumes based on the HMD, the VR headset, and tracking which volumes you move your hands through. That's been my idea. I don't have much experience with the system yet, so I could be wrong. There could be an easier way, or that could just not work. But that's what I'm going into this with the idea for. Okay, we've got terminology. Not super hard. The project holds everything. Yes. And it literally is just the folders of your project, okay? Updating projects to newer versions. This one could be important later. I'm going to keep this open and keep it in the background. I don't need to do it right now, but I might later. Editor interface, we just went through this once, and I've also used it a tiny bit before. So I don't think this is super important, but if I need information about something like the class viewer, global asset picker, these all seem pretty self-explanatory. I think mostly the class viewer and global asset picker, probably those two. But this is a generally useful page, so I'm going to leave it open here. And let's put a divider in so we know where the new ones are and the useful ones are. That's how I manage my tabs. It's not healthy, but that's how I do it. And that's how I will continue to do it. All right. A tool is something you use to perform a task. An editor is a collection of tools. And a system is the large collection of features that work together to produce an aspect of the game or application. Blueprint is a system used to visually script gameplay elements, and I don't like that. Niagara editor is for particle effects. Okay, never heard of that before. Level editor is for levels. Not important until much, much later in development. Static meshes preview the look, collision, and UV mapping of an object. That could be useful much sooner than this, but later than what we're doing right now, which is learning the system itself. Materials editor are assets that can be applied to a mesh. Okay, so it's like a sort of contextual texture. Blueprint editor, yeah, I've tried it out, don't like it. Physics asset editor. Physics assets for use with skeletal meshes, okay. Both of these seem like good things to try out. Let's open that page up. AI behavior tree. This is going to be important, but not for way later. Niagara editor for particles. So I'm going to be making a Kamehameha. That's my first goal. Learn everything enough to make some form of Kamehameha, whether if it can be just click and shoot the beam and make the sound, that would be cool. This is probably going to be part of that. User interface. Unreal Motion Graphics UI Editor is a visual UI authoring tool that you can use to create UI elements. Okay. I'm wondering how this is going to work in VR. Because in VR, the UI kind of has to be 3D rendered in the world for you to have the correct sort of perspective on it, parallax, so your eyes can focus on it and read it correctly. One thing that I am interested in trying, though, is how would a Dragon Ball Z style scouter actually work? Because it's like a UI for one eye through a colored screen, right? And I don't know if that would actually be readable or not. And this seems like a good way to test that out. I could just like attach that to one side of your VR headset with stuff on it that changes based on what you're looking at. I want to see if it would actually work. And if it is, I'm going to put those in the game. If it does work, I mean. Fonts, okay. Sequencer editor for cinematics and dynamic events. Create in-game cinematics. So this is for cutscenes by creating level sequences with tracks. Okay. Could also just be for like at tense moments create an audio track that just goes on in the background, I guess. Persona editor for animations. This is going to be important, but not for a while. Sound cues. Okay, this seems more like what I was talking about, the sequencer. Paper 2D sprites. Might need that. Actually, what comes to mind is putting images on a scouter. Or the UI for 3D space. Could be made up of 2D things in the 3D world. Flipbooks, 2D animation. Okay. You can use external media. That's good. End display 3D config. Probably not going to need that. DMX library editor, digital multiplex. No, I'm not going to need that. Okay. Physics asset editor. Let's see. So you can have. Okay, so hitbox is made up of individual pieces. That makes sense. You have a skeletal mesh that has some hitboxes, and the physics assets are what define the hitboxes. So I'm guessing position. Oh, auto orient to bone. Okay. So as long as you have bones on your model, you can just do it automatically. That's cool. You can open the physics asset editor by opening a physics asset. That's all you can do with them. Okay. By right-clicking and selecting edit. By selecting physics tab in the animation editor's selection tab. Okay. Physics constraints, physics bodies. For shooting a beam, I'm going to need some sort of emitter of projectiles and some sort of projectiles. So that, I think that's a pretty high level concept. So we probably won't get there for a while. And there's a lot of base knowledge we need before we can start on that. So base knowledge seems like the important part right now. And let's just deal with it. I don't need this. Assets and packages. In a content browser sources panel, you can display the asset tree. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. This is all not necessary right now. Actors in geometry. Okay, you can place actors. You can set controls for them. You can transform them, snap them, merge them. Let's look at a couple of these, like mobility and transformation. The mobility setting. Okay, so you can set them to unable to move, stationary, static, unable to move, will not update their position. Stationary, can change during gameplay but do not move. Okay, so this is for things that you can move but that do not move on their own. Gotcha. And then movable is for things that move, or movable things cast fully dynamic shadows. Okay. And if something creates light, is this what this means? They can only cast dynamic shadows. That makes sense because they're made to move, so dynamic shadow is what they need. That's it. Okay. Transforming an actor refers to moving, rotating, or scaling it. Manual or interactive transformation. Vertical is Z. Okay, that's good to know. That's unusual. Normally it's X left and right, Y up and down, Z forward and back. You can do manual transformation to the transform section of the details panel. You can change something's location, rotation, or scale. If more than one actor is selected, display multiple values. That makes sense, and it will overwrite it for all of them if you put one in. To reset to default values, there's a button for that. Okay, good to know. And you can lock the scale, which changes them in unison so that they won't distort. Interactive, called a gizmo. A gizmo and a widget are the same thing. Okay, that should have been in terminology. A gizmo is made up of several parts that are color coordinated based on axis. Oh, a gizmo is like in any 3D modeling program when you click something and it comes up with this this, what would you call it besides a gizmo or a widget? The handles to move things around. Okay. Translation gizmo, that's what I was just using. And there's going to be a rotation one. Oh wait, duplicating. To duplicate, hold down Alt and then drag, which will make a new one and leave the original. Okay. Rotation gizmo. And world and local transformation modes. Okay, so world space is the X, Y, and Z axis are based on everything else. The X, Y, and Z axis are based on the object itself in local. That's good to know. You can adjust the pivot point. This is all basic 3D modeling stuff. I have used AutoCAD. I have used other programs similar, so this all makes sense. A component is a piece of functionality that can be added to an actor. A spotlight, rotating movement, will make it spin. The audio component will give your actor the ability to play sounds. Okay. Components must be attached to an actor. How do you do that? You can place an actor in your level without providing any script as to how it should function. Oh, this is all part of a car metaphor. Okay. Components created as sub-objects within an actor are instanced, meaning each actor gets its own unique instances. That makes sense. So if you wanted them all to move, you would have to have them influence a meta variable that would change all of their variables at once. You couldn't just say apply to all of them, something like that. Okay. AI components, audio components, cable components, camera components. There are a lot of these. What is a cable component? Light's fine. Movement, let's look at that. Projectiles, that's relevant. Navigation. Let's check it out. Paper 2D, that's the 2D stuff. We don't really need that. Physics components, I think we already looked at this. Rendering components, that's going to be for, oh yeah, particle system, decals, billboards. Okay. Shapes, let's look at that. Skeletal meshes, let's look at those. Static meshes, let's look at those. Utilities and the widgets. We don't need that one, I think. Okay. Cable. Oh, okay. Cable is just a pre-made physical rope that goes between objects. All right, that is cool. Movement components. Character movement component allows avatars not using rigid body physics to move by walking, running, jumping, flying, falling, swimming. Cool. It is specific to characters. Okay. That's good to know. Character movement component. I guess for anything else, it would just be movement component. For information on working with character movement, see setting up character movement. Okay. Projectile movement component updates the position of another component during its tick. Behaviors such as bouncing after impacts and homing toward a target are supported by this type of component. Okay. Interesting. Normally, the root component of the owing actor is moved. However, another component may be selected. If the updated component is simulating physics, only the initial launch parameters will affect the projectile, and the physics simulation will take over from there. All right, that's cool. An example of a blueprint using projectile movement component is shown below. Projectile movement component. Oh, these are all projectile movement. Okay. Is homing projectile? It's just a checkbox. Interesting. Okay. Whether it should bounce or not. Initial speed, max speed, rotation. Gravity scale. That's nice. Bounciness, friction. Okay. Rotating movement is continuous rotation. Okay. So just anything in a circle. Anything in a circle is basically what it says. Projectile movement component is interesting. I'm going to need this. Navigation. If you have a shape component as the root of an actor, the volume of the root will modify the nav mesh generation within it. Okay, so this is for game logic and AI. Okay, so Nav Modifier, this is showing the red area has a higher cost to move through. So if it's the only way to go through, it will. But if another path opens up, it would rather take the other path. So it's cool that this stuff is built in and is its own specific thing to look for. That makes AI pretty intuitive, actually. More than what I thought. Just being able to click and drag boxes in the 3D modeler to control whether they want to go somewhere or not. That's cool. You can like attach a nav modifier component telling them they don't want to go somewhere to the middle of the Kamehameha, and they'll like try to avoid it or at least not walk straight through it. That's nice. Shapes. Arrow shows which way an object should face. Box shows the collision. Capsule shows simple collision, or is used for simple collision often. Sphere, same. Spline, used to make streets or complex paths. Billboard component. We're added to. Oh, okay, so that's just their example. This is the billboard. This is the spline path, and then there's a particle coming off of it. Okay. Oh, or with the intent of having the particle system follow the spline path. So this billboard is here, and the particle system will travel along the spine so it looks like it's coming out of this thing's mouth, I guess. Okay. You can edit the spline by right-clicking on the actor that has the spline component. Okay. Particles following a spline seems very relevant to my interests in shooting a Kamehameha. So let's keep this one open. Skeletal Mesh. A complex skeleton of interconnected bones. These skeletal meshes and skeletal mesh action. Okay, let's look at those, I think. Skeletal meshes are made up of two parts, polygons to make the surface, and a hierarchical set of interconnected bones which can be used to animate the vertices. Yes. Use an Unreal 4 to represent characters or objects. 3D models, rigging, and animations are created in an external modeling and animation application and are then imported into Unreal Engine 4 and saved in packages by using the content browser. That is what I wanted to know, because I wanted to know if I needed to add the bones in Blender or whatever I end up using, or if that was in Unreal. And it seems like that's going to be in Blender. You make the model, including the set of polygons for the mesh and the bones, both in whatever other application, and then you import it all into Unreal. That's good to know. Skeletal Mesh actors. Actors used to display complex animation data created in an external 3D animation program. Okay. So this is... So a skeletal mesh actor is just an actor that has a skeletal mesh and it can have animation assets made for it. And as long as it's constructed correctly and set up to use those animations, it can do so. Yes. Looping and playing. Yeah, okay. So that was less interesting than I expected, but it did confirm something for me, that I need to use other programs to make those models. Static mesh. A piece of geometry that consists of a static set of polygons and is the basic unit used to create world geometry for levels in Unreal 4. Can be used to create movers, okay, rigid body, foliage, terrain, procedurally generated buildings, game objectives, and many more. Okay, that is cool. Procedurally generated stuff is nice. I probably won't be using it. Spotlights and point lights. Opening doors, okay. Application Lifecycle handles receiving notifications from the OS about the application state. So you know when you've been suspended and you can pause the game or something, okay? Platform event component allows you to pull the OS. Oh, this lets you know what you're on and what state you're on and what to do when that state changes. Okay. Child actor component is a component that spawns when an actor is, or spawns an actor when registered and destroys it when unregistered. This seems really important, actually. Why is this here with something that seems kind of less important? These are just utility. This is just a whole section for utility, okay? Scene has transform and supports attachment, but has no rendering or collision. It is a dummy component. Okay. Don't use too many scenes. All right. The arrow component is a scene component that features simple arrows drawn with lines to indicate the direction it's facing. There is an arrow component attached to the mannequin's index finger bone, revealing that the bone is located here and that it's pointed this way. Okay. If you want to attach a laser beam component to this finger bone to show where your character's fingertip is pointing, you would need to rotate it 180 degrees. All right. The spline component provides users to draw a way to draw splines within a level, which is useful for designating paths for moving actors. Seen that before. An actor with a spline component will show a point at the component's location with a line connecting it to a second point a short distance away. Okay. So this shows like an NPC's path down some stairs. Oh, a hint marker showing the player where to go. Okay, that makes sense. Levels. This is going to be useful much later. Level assets. Let's see this just for a short time. In the file menu, you can make a new level. Okay. Aha. This is the one that I was talking about before, where it had the HMD and the VR controllers floating here for use, and there were some boxes to throw around, but there were not guns. That was the VR basic level. So let's load that up. Let's do new level, VR basic, VR template map. And save content. I don't know what this is saying. Save content. Sure. Okay, this is also very different than the last time I saw it. It doesn't even have the HMD there or here, but it has the start point and it has some lighting and some objects, but I don't see anything specifically VR here. You got the VR template folder, has all the basic stuff in it. VR spectator can go somewhere, but I don't think it is anywhere to start off. The starter content. We don't have a player as far as I can tell. A first person weapon. First person gun. Mesh for the gun physics asset. Okay. Well, these are not in the level. Huh. And the textures, yeah. That's the UV map. And what's the other one of these? Begun 2048N, FP Gun 2048M. I am not exactly sure which one of these is the UV map and what the other one of these even is. But I don't need to know yet. I am learning. We've got saving levels, opening levels. We just did that. Wait, is this open level? No, that's not the same. Okay. What are we looking for? We're trying to go here. Yes. Playing and simulating. You can spawn anywhere and instantly preview your game from within the editor without waiting for files to save. Play in editor and simulate in editor. What is the difference? Play in editor. The game should start and you should see the player. You will also see text appear in the upper left corner for mouse control. Okay. You can possess different things, different people. Play modes where you can simulate or do a standalone game. And the play and editor console enables you to enter commands, displaying performance data, enabling and disabling features. Okay. Simulate in editor. What is the difference? Does it just do physics? Okay, so play as a character that you control and you're running around. Simulate is just for physics. Good to know. That's not anything we need to worry about right now. This was just basics, right? Okay, yes. So we can now start with, we had opened up working with content, but I think what's going to be more important is programming and scripting, because we can do working with content, importing things, but I only want to import things when I have something that I want and need to import. Building worlds, I am not doing level design until I need to. Again, rendering subsystem, including lighting and shadowing, materials and textures, visual effects, and post-processing. Don't need to do that yet. Programming and scripting, though. This I do need. And we will start on this next time.